I'm Em Roblin. I'm about helping you step into your potential, awaken to new possibilities, build effective partnerships that are rooted in trust. That's what I want to talk about. Something simple. Names. Do you call people by the name they prefer to be called? Yeah. When people mispronounce or call you by the wrong name, like, how do you feel? I'm not talking about like passport services or like in line at the bank. I'm talking about people you work with. Recently, I was on a client call, and one of the key stakeholders kept calling me Robin. Yeah, we were like going through some tangible, like, stuff, not a big deal. Um, and then I did in the moment say, oh, hey, in fact, my name's Emily. I prefer to be called Em. Please call me Em. And then we just continued. But it was after that call that I just was reflecting on actually how I felt in that meeting. And while it wasn't a big deal, and I just assertively explained the name I like to be called, I was thinking back that I actually felt quite distant. Like, that is the impact, right? Like, you just feel a little distant. Now, recently, I was facilitating a leadership team meeting with an intact team that had global leaders from lots of different cultures, lots of different names from many different languages that are definitely can be hard to pronounce. But this team actually had been working together for a long time. So coming into this team as a facilitator, I was checking in the early parts of this program, as people were warming up, on one of the participants' names and just how to pronounce it. And this person told me how to pronounce their name. And I asked, "What's the name you prefer to be called?" And they said, "Please call me by my name." So I said, "Okay." And then later on, I was using that name, and somebody else in the team said, "Oh, by the way, like, this person prefers to be called by like a Western simplified version of the name, like that's easy to pronounce, like the Amy kind of." And we got into this interesting dialogue about, like, they had been calling this person Amy, like the equivalent. I'm changing the name for the example, but like for years they'd been working together, mispronouncing this person's name and making the assumption that person preferred it. Now, of course, when the energy is onto that person, it's like nobody wants to create problems. They're like, just call me whatever. Just like, it doesn't matter. But you really think about it, like, from a perspective of, am I creating an environment where people feel included? It's like one of the least things that we can do is actually just call them the name that their community calls them, that is their actual name that they like to be called, right? What can you do? I mean, check in with people. Even you may have simplified their names. Like, I love to be called M. That's how I feel connected and close to people. But I can't make an assumption about somebody else named Emily and start calling them M. I better ask. So you might notice you have a tendency or a comfort zone to shorten or not shorten people's names, but you might just check in on an individual basis, like, what's the name you actually prefer to be called? And if you're working like me in a global context where you're meeting lots of people all the time from very different cultures and different languages, well, yeah, I actually do my homework as much as I can beforehand to make sure, if I can pronounce a name for a language or a culture I'm less familiar with, let me try to do that. And then, of course, listening very carefully in how that person says their own name, and where it's appropriate to actually repeat it back and make until I get it right, and just to be genuine and authentic, to show that you care about getting it right, can be really important. And adding on that piece, like, what's the name you prefer to be called? And if it's appropriate and if there's time, to get curious about the origins of people's names. That's a fascinating way to just learn about a person and make that connection that can really help you to remember it. Sometimes I jot down notes about, like, the phonetic spelling, even if it, like, how I can remember it. But notes around it as well, and it does really serve the relationship going forward. There's a lot more, topics and tips and tricks we can do around this, like building effective partnerships that are rooted in trust. Interesting to hear how this one resonates and what else you're interested in.